The Goldsmith's Fortune. Once upon a time there was a goldsmith who lived in a certain village where the people were as bad and greedy and covetous as they could possibly be. However, in spite of his surroundings, he was fat and prosperous. He had only one friend whom he liked, and that was the cowherd, who looked after cattle for one of the farmers in the village. Every evening the goldsmith would walk across to the cowherd's house and say, "Come, let's go for a walk." Now, the cowherd didn't like walking in the evening because he said he had been out grazing the cattle all day and was glad to sit down when night came. But the goldsmith always worried him so that the poor man had to go against his will. This at last so annoyed him that he tried to think of how he could pick a quarrel with the goldsmith so that he would not beg him to walk with him any more. He asked another cowherd for advice, and he said the best thing he could do was to go across and kill the goldsmith's wife, for then the goldsmith would be sure to regard him as an enemy. So, being a foolish person, and there being no laws in the country by which a man should certainly be carried to punishment for such a crime, the cowherd one evening took a big stick and went across to the goldsmith's house when only Mrs. Goldsmith was home, and banged her on the head so hard that she died then and there. When the goldsmith came back and found his wife dead, he said nothing, but just took her outside in the dark lane and propped her up against the wall of his house, and then went to the courtyard and waited. Presently a rich stranger came along the lane, and seeing someone there, as he supposed, he said, "Good evening, friend, and fine night tonight." But the goldsmith's wife said nothing. The man then repeated his words louder, but still there was no reply. Third time he shouted, "Good evening, friend. Are you deaf?" But the figure never replied. Then the stranger, being very angry at what they thought very rude behavior, picked up a big stone and threw it at Mrs. Goldsmith, crying, "That ought to teach you manners." Instantly, poor Mrs. Goldsmith tumbled over, and the stranger, horrified at seeing what he had done, was immediately seized by the goldsmith, who ran out screaming, "Wretch, you killed my wife! O miserable one, we will have justice done to thee!" With many protestations and reproaches they wrangled together, and the stranger entreating the goldsmith to say nothing, and that he would pay him handsomely as to atone for the sad accident. At last the goldsmith quieted down, and agreed to accept 1,000 pieces from the stranger, who immediately helped him to bury his poor wife, and then rushed off to the guest-house, packed up his things, and was off by daylight, lest the goldsmith should repent and accuse him of the murder of his wife. Now, it very soon appeared that the goldsmith had a lot of extra money, so that people began to ask questions, and finally demanded of him the reason for his sudden wealth. "Oh," he said, "my wife died, and I sold her." "You sold your dead wife?" cried the people. "Yes," said the goldsmith. "For how much?" "1,000 gold pieces," replied the goldsmith. Instantly the villagers went away, and each caught hold of his own wife and throttled her. The next day they went all off to sell their dead wives. Many a weary mile did they tramp, but got nothing but hard words and laughter, or directions to the nearest cemetery, from people whom they offered dead wives for sale. At last they perceived that they had been cheated somehow by the goldsmith, so off they rushed home, and seized the unhappy man, and without listening to his cries and entreaties, hurried him down to the river bank, and flung him in, plop, into the deepest, weediest, and nastiest place they could find. Now, the goldsmith really could not swim. As soon as he was thrown into the deep water, he sank below the surface, so his enemies went away believing that they had seen the last of him. But in reality, he was carried down, half drowned, below the next bend of the river, where he fortunately came across a snag floating under the water. A snag is, a part of a tree or bush that floats very nearly at the surface of the water, and held on to it, and by good luck eventually came ashore, some 2 or 3 miles down the river. At the place where he landed, he came across a fine, fat cow buffalo, and immediately he jumped on her back and rode her home. When the village people saw him, they ran out in surprise and said, Where on earth did you come from, and where did you get that buffalo?" "Ah," said the goldsmith, "you little know the delightful adventures I had. Why, down in that place in the river where you threw me, I found meadows and trees and fine pastures and buffalo and all kinds of cattle. In fact, I could hardly tear myself away, but I thought that I really must let you all know about it." "Oh, thought the greedy village people. "If there are buffaloes, we'd best go for the taking after we have some too." Encouraged by the goldsmith, they nearly ran off the next morning to the river, and in order that they might get down quickly to the beautiful place the goldsmith had told them of, they tied great stones to their feet and their necks, and one after another they jumped into the water as fast as they could, and were drowned. And whenever any one of them waved his hands or struggled, the goldsmith would cry out, "Look, he's beckoning the rest of you! Come, he's got a fine buffalo!" The others, who were doubtful, would jump in, until not one was left. Then the cunning goldsmith went back and took all the village for himself, and became very rich indeed. But do you think he was happy? Not a bit. Lies never made a man happy yet. Truly, he got the better of a set of wicked and greedy people, but only by being wicked and greedy himself. And as it turned out, when he got so rich, he got very fat, and at last he was so fat that he couldn't move, and one day he got an apoplexy and died, and no one in the world cared the least bit.